everyone, it's Jen, and if you've been subscribed to me for a while, you probably know by now that I am obsessed with horror films. In my 25 Facts About Me video, I talked about how much I was obsessed with them, and ever since you guys have been asking me, Jen, what's your favorite horror film of all time? And my answer is usually, I don't know, because I have so many. I decided to compile a list of my top 10 favorite horror films of all time and tell them to you guys. And I figured this is the perfect time to make this video because October is in like 3 days, which I'm so excited about because October is my favorite month of the year and Halloween's my favorite holiday and it's just all awesome. Anyway, but before I start talking about my top 10 list, I just wanted to make a quick little announcement that this entire month of October, all of my videos are going to be special effects makeup tutorials for Halloween. So if you want to see me create any type of makeup look that you want, then just put your requests in the comment section below. I'll check them out, see which ones I feel interested in doing, and I will do them. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Number 10 on my list is Ginger Snaps. Ginger Snaps is a story about two sisters named Ginger and Bridget who are really weird and gothic and basically hate everyone, kinda like me. On the night of Ginger's first period, she gets attacked by a werewolf, and basically the entire movie is her gruesome transformation into a werewolf and basically wanting to tear everyone and everything into pieces. Her sister Bridget teams up with a drug dealer at her school to try to figure out a way to turn her sister back into a human before she murders everyone in town. I think what I love most about this movie is that it's so different from most horror films you see these days, because in all of horror film history, there have not been a lot of werewolf-based movies. The only two really popular werewolf-based horror films are this one and An American Werewolf in London, which is also a classic. Next horror film on my list, number 9, The Descent. The Descent is a movie about a group of middle-aged women who decide to go on a vacation in the Appalachian Mountains and decide last minute to go cave exploring. While they're cave exploring, disaster strikes and the cave basically caves in on them, causing them to be trapped in the cave with no way out. Basically, the entire movie is them trying to find a way out of this cave, but it sucks because they lose most of their equipment in the cave-in and they face a lot of very hard, difficult obstacles. One of the obstacles being these guys. They discover a clan of weird-ass creatures who are basically like half man, half hairless dog, and well, basically they feast on people. They live completely underground in the darkness, and they're also blind and only sense out their food by sound and smell. And they look disgusting. The women spend the rest of the movie trying to get away from these things and kill these things, while at the same time trying to find a way out of this hellhole. This is a very stressful movie, and it's also very bloody. So if you like blood and gore, you'll definitely love this movie. This movie just really permanently scarred me because now I'm constantly thinking, like, what if right now, while I'm filming this video, there's just a clan of half man, half hairless dog creature things living under my house and I don't even know it. Sorry if I put that image in your mind. Number 8, Sinister 2. Sinister 2 is a movie about a woman and her two twin sons who are trying to get away from her abusive husband and do so by moving away to a big, estranged farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, which is the perfect place to go when you're trying to get away from someone. Little do they know that this farmhouse is haunted and previous families who have lived in that farmhouse were tortured and murdered brutally. One of the twin boys, Dylan, is visited by ghost children every night, and on each one of those nights they take him down into the basement and show them videos of their families being murdered in that house. Each kid has their own film to show Dylan and storyline of their families being murdered whom they murdered themselves. These kids tell Dylan that he has to do the exact same thing, murder his family and get it all on camera, or else the boogeyman is gonna get angry. This boogeyman, known as the Bagul, slowly takes over the souls of children and persuades them to kill their own families and get it all on camera. If the kids fail to do just that, he will kill them and keep their souls for eternity in hell. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, but the lights in my background just turn off and on again. So clearly, something sinister is happening in my room right now. Great. Number 7, Evil Dead. Evil Dead is probably one of the most terrifying movies I've ever seen in my life. This movie is about a drug addict named Mia whose friends set up an intervention for her to, you know, stop doing drugs. Her friends for some reason choose to hold this intervention in an abandoned cabin in literally the middle of nowhere. As they get settled into the cabin, everyone starts to complain of this horrid smell in the basement. So as everyone does in a horror film, they go down to investigate. In the basement, they find hundreds of dead cats that were formerly used as a form of witchcraft in the old days. Along with the dead cats, they also find an old book that's full of spells and more witchcraft that's used to summon an ancient demon. Just by opening up this book, they're oblivious of the fact that they just unleashed a bunch of demons that eventually possess Mia, making her look like this. Adorable. After Mia becomes possessed by this demon, she is very murder crazed and just tries to kill all her friends. The thing that I love most about this movie is that it is filled with so much gore, and I love gory films. So if you don't like blood or guts or detached limbs, I wouldn't suggest you watch this movie, because you won't like it, but I do. If you like that kind of stuff, this is the movie for you. Coming in at number 6, Saw. Saw is one of the biggest mindfuck movies of all time. This movie is about a mysterious man and serial killer named Jigsaw who essentially picks random victims to play his special game. All of his victims play different games that usually involve chopping off your own limbs, otherwise you die a torturous and gruesome death. This first Saw movie involves two guys named Adam and Lawrence who are captured by Jigsaw and put in a disgusting bathroom with their feet chained to a pipe along with another dead body in the room. Lovely. Jigsaw gives these two guys a certain amount of time to solve his puzzle, otherwise someone they love will die or they themselves will die. This movie is also very, very gory, so again, if you don't like gore, I don't recommend it. But if you're like me and you love gore, then go for it. But as you can tell, I really, really, really love gory movies. And I swear, I am mentally stable. Number 5, Insidious. Insidious is a movie about a boy named Dalton who falls off of a ladder in his attic and is put into a coma. And the reason why I put air quotes around coma is because he's not actually in a coma. Ever since Dalton was put in this coma, very, very weird and scary things start happening to his family and his house. These very weird and scary things include things moving by themselves, things breaking by themselves, and even the piano playing by itself. Hey, if my piano, which is right back there, started playing by itself, I would move out of this house immediately. Obviously, all of these things lead the family to believe that the house is haunted, so they hire an expert. Ghost, whisperer, medium, whatever you call them, they hire that. They later find out through this medium named Elise that their son Dalton is not actually in a coma and their house isn't really haunted. But their son is. He's actually in a demon-filled dream state called the Further, where his mind has left his body, leaving room for demons to possess it. Dalton is unable to find his way out of the Further, so he gets some help from a very special someone who also experienced the same thing as a child, which I'm not going to give away in case you haven't seen the movie. Now there are 2 movie sequels to Insidious called Insidious 2 and Insidious 3. Very original. In my opinion, they aren't as good as the first one. So, number 4, Halloween. Halloween is a movie about a serial killer named Michael Myers who murders his older sister when he's little. After murdering his sister, he soon realizes that he really enjoys taking other people's lives. Michael is put in jail for 15 years, eventually escapes the prison, and continues to murder a number of people. He also ends up terrorizing the protagonist of this film, Lori, and all her friends. I mean, this is your basic, typical, you know, teenagers trying to get away from a serial killer type of movie, but it is a classic, and if you have not seen this film, what are you doing with your life? Not to mention that the soundtrack for this movie is one of the best in film history. You okay? Number 3, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now this movie is actually the first horror film I ever saw. I think I saw this movie when I was about 12 years old, and it's really what started it all for me. This movie is about a group of teenagers who fall victim to a serial killer named Freddy Krueger. But he's not just any serial killer, because he's dead and he only performs his murders in kids' dreams. After these teenagers realize that they're all having the same dreams of this guy, he slowly murders each of them one by one in their dreams, which ends up killing them in real life. It's honestly terrifying because something as simple as an after-school nap can mean death for them. Let me just say that after watching this movie, I was so afraid of falling asleep for the next 2 weeks because I genuinely thought I was gonna get murdered in my sleep. Number 2, The Shining. I think it's safe to say that this movie is on everyone's top 10 list. This is my mom's favorite horror film, and she's actually the one who showed this to me in the first place. The Shining is about a man named Jack Torrance who becomes the new owner of a huge and very isolated hotel in Colorado. He brings along his wife Wendy and his son Danny, who is also a psychic who has very demented visions. As soon as they move into the hotel, Danny's visions become even more dark and disturbing, and weird things begin to happen. It's as if the hotel is playing tricks on the family because Jack starts to go a little crazy. He himself starts to see some pretty disturbing things in the hotel, which leads him to want to murder his whole family. Family goals, am I right? This movie is such a mindfuck, and as I was watching it, I started to feel like I myself was going insane. I just love movies where you start to question your own sanity, because that's when you know it's good. I think everyone can agree when I say that it is one of the best horror films of all time, and if you haven't even seen it, you have definitely heard about it from this famous line.
Here's Johnny!
Now before I reveal my number 1 favorite horror film of all time, I'm gonna do this Mojo.com style and name some honorable mentions. Silence of the Lambs, Alien, Friday the 13th, Psycho, Poltergeist, The Exorcist, Scream, Carrie, Jaws, and now, the moment you've all been waiting for, number 1, The Lost Boys. Now some of you, if not most of you, have probably never even heard of this movie because it's not a very popular horror film, but I love it. This movie is about a teenager named Michael who moves to Santa Carla, California, which by the way is not a real city in California, with his mother and brother Sam. Michael and Sam are a little bit skeptical about this move because they have heard many rumors that the city of Santa Carla is filled with vampires. And no, I'm not talking about the puny type of vampires from Twilight and Vampire Diaries. I'm talking about these bad boys. Terrifying. Michael ends up falling in love with a girl named Star, who he later finds out is a vampire who was turned into a vampire by another vampire named David, who was the leader of a group of vampires. Yep, I know, take it in. Michael decides to become friends with this group of vampires without realizing that they are vampires because, you know, he's just trying to make new friends in a new town. But after David tells Michael that they are all indeed vampires, obviously he doesn't believe them until they turn him into a vampire. Michael becomes a vampire by drinking a special blood brewed up by David himself and officially becomes a part of these Lost Boys. After realizing that he is indeed a vampire, his little brother Sam starts to suspect that something's up. He becomes friends with these 2 other guys his own age who are apparently vampire hunters and experts. These 2 boys help Sam find out if his brother is really a vampire, and if he is really a vampire, help him turn back into a human. I am so in love with this movie, I cannot keep track of how many times I've watched it. I'm also a little biased because Kiefer Sutherland's in this and he is my favorite actor of all time. So anyways, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, leave me some comments down below telling me what you want to see me do for my special effects makeup series for the month of October. Subscribe for more weekly videos, follow me on all my social media down below, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.